The year is 1977. Gas lines curl around city blocks. Smog hangs low like a warning. And in a quiet Toyota workshop, engineers fire up something that doesn't sound like any car before it. No rumble, no pistons, just a soft, rising whir, the sound of a gas turbine spinning at incredible speed. It powers a generator, which feeds electricity into batteries and then into motors that move the car forward. It's smooth, silent, otherworldly. A gas turbine hybrid, decades before anyone had heard of the Prius. It works, it's real, and almost no one remembers. This is the story of the hybrid that could have changed everything, the future that Toyota built, then buried. Welcome to Missed Futures, the series where we explore the breakthroughs that arrived too early and the visionaries who paid the price for being right too soon. Because sometimes the world doesn't reject progress, it simply refuses to see it. Few stories capture that better than Toyota's forgotten gas turbine hybrid, the electric dream of 1977. It started with a crisis. The oil shocks of the 1970s had hit like a tidal wave. Prices spiked, gas stations went dry, governments warned, conserve. Car makers shrugged, we'll try. But deep inside Toyota, a small team asked a radical question. What if the car didn't have to depend on oil at all? Their idea: replace the traditional engine with a small gas turbine, the same kind used in aircraft, paired with an electric generator and batteries. The turbine would spin at constant speed, producing power at peak efficiency. No wasted revs, no mechanical drag, just pure controlled electricity. And when you slowed down, that power didn't disappear. It flowed back, stored in batteries through regenerative braking. It was elegant, efficient, and completely insane for 1977. If you think the Prius invented hybrid thinking, you're already late to the story. The components were experimental: ceramic turbines, primitive power electronics, heavy lead-acid batteries. But the results stunned engineers. The car could cruise quietly without gears or vibration. It used a fraction of the fuel of conventional engines, and it produced almost no pollution. The sound wasn't an engine roar, it was a whispering jet, a soft turbine note that made the car feel like it was gliding through air. For the engineers at Toyota, it was more than a prototype. It was proof that the age of combustion could end with grace, not noise. The future didn't need a miracle, it needed permission. But you can't build tomorrow without fighting today. Outside the lab, gas prices were dropping again. Governments relaxed, batteries were heavy, turbines expensive, and no one wanted to buy a car that sounded like an airplane. The questions piled up. Could it scale? Would buyers understand it? Would mechanics know how to repair it? Would regulators even approve it? 100 reasonable doubts drowned one extraordinary vision. Progress isn't defeated by failure, it's defeated by spreadsheets. Toyota faced the choice: go all in, mass-produce a turbine hybrid and risk everything, or shelve it, save the data, and wait for the world to catch up. They chose to wait. The 1977 turbine hybrid went back into the archives, its test results logged, its components boxed, and the engineers who'd built it moved on to quieter projects. The blueprint for the Prius was already written in turbine ink. Talk to the people who were there, and a pattern emerges. They weren't dreamers, they were meticulous scientists. They saw how traditional engines wasted energy in traffic, how turbines could run clean at a steady pace, how electricity could do the hard work at low speeds where engines were least efficient. They knew it worked. They'd seen the numbers, but the world wasn't listening. The people with wrenches had built the future, but the people with pens decided it wasn't profitable.
The 1980s arrived with swagger. Oil flowed again. Sports cars ruled the highways. Efficiency became a slogan, not a mission. Toyota's turbine hybrid became a footnote, a technical curiosity that visitors might glimpse at a trade show. whispering softly under glass. Hybrids required patience, and patience didn't sell. You couldn't explain them in a slogan. You couldn't rev them at a stoplight. They asked for understanding, not adrenaline. When comfort returns, urgency disappears. But here's the twist. Toyota never forgot. They kept refining the math, testing materials, tracking battery chemistry like weather. By the 1990s, everything had changed. Computers had shrunk, nickel metal hydride batteries had matured, and the world's smog was thick again. And this time, Toyota acted. The Prius launched in 1997, the first mass-produced hybrid car in history. Everyone called it revolutionary, but behind that revolution were 20 years of turbine dreams. Every overnight success has a 20-year prologue. Now imagine if that prototype had made it past the boardroom. If Toyota had built even a small run of gas turbine hybrids in the late 1970s, fuel consumption worldwide could have dropped by billions of barrels. Air in Tokyo, Los Angeles, and London might have cleared a decade earlier. Battery innovation would have accelerated years ahead of schedule. And the culture of cars, of silence, efficiency, and restraint, could have arrived before the horsepower wars returned. Momentum matters more than perfection. History isn't changed by miracles, it's changed by earlier baselines. Innovation succeeds when 4 clocks strike together: technology, cost, policy, and story. In 1977, only the first one ticked. By 1997, all 4 aligned. Toyota's turbine hybrid didn't fail because it was wrong. It failed because the world was out of sync. Great ideas don't need better diagrams, they need better timing. We like to tell history through brands and logos, but the truth lives in the people. An engineer sketching airflow paths for a ceramic turbine. A manager wondering if anyone would buy a car that hummed instead of growled. A technician recording data from an electric brake system that barely existed anywhere else on Earth. They weren't trying to be famous, they were trying to be ready. Sometimes survival is courage. Sometimes waiting is wisdom. When hybrids finally arrived, they taught us something the turbine engineers already knew. Efficiency is beautiful. Silence can be speed. Transition beats revolution. The bridge from gasoline to electrons was built by those who had dreamed of turbines and patience, not fanfare. Sometimes the future's loudest signal is a whisper that lasts. We want history to be full of bold unveilings, but the most of it lives in file cabinets of almosts. Toyota's 1977 gas turbine hybrid didn't fail. It waited. And waiting isn't giving up. It's choosing the moment when the world will finally say yes. But there's always a cost to delay. Every year we postpone a better path becomes the standard for worse. Delay doesn't just postpone the future, it edits it. For a brief, flickering moment in 1977, Toyota showed us a car that breathed like a jet and moved like a whisper. A machine that could teach us to unlearn the pump, to find motion without noise, power without guilt. Then the moment passed. Decades later, we call hybrids inevitable, but inevitability is just what we call courage postponed. Toyota's forgotten gas turbine hybrid proves a harder truth. The future doesn't arrive when it's invented. It arrives when we're brave enough to build it anyway. This was Missed Futures, the series that revisits the inventions that came too soon and asks the only question that really matters: what if the future had started in 1977? Subscribe for more Missed Futures. And tell us, would you have driven a jet-powered hybrid if it meant cleaner air 40 years early?